Look at your thumb right now. You believe you are controlling it, but look back at the last 10 seconds. Did you explicitly choose to scroll here, or did it just happen? That tiny gap between your intention and your action, that isn't just a habit, it is a gap in your consciousness. Don't panic, just observe it. You have felt this gap before, in the dead silence of an elevator, at a red light. That subtle itch to fill the void with glowing light. We are not here to judge that impulse. We are here to dissect it. Because that small movement isn't just a reflex. It begins with a twitch, a ghost in the muscle of your thigh. You reach for the device that is not there, a Pavlovian spasm for a bell that did not ring. This is not habit. This is a neurological scar, the phantom limb of a connection that has been amputated from the physical world and grafted onto your very nervous system. Your body, an ancient biological machine, now answers to a digital overlord. It mistakes the misfiring of a single neuron for a summons, a command from the digital purgatory, and you obey. You always obey. Consider the interstitial spaces, the dead zones of modern life. The 30 seconds of calcified silence at a red light. The 90 seconds of vertical suspension in an elevator, surrounded by strangers performing the sacred ritual of avoiding eye contact by staring into glowing rectangles. The dead air between one video ending and the next one autoplaying. These were once fallow fields for the mind, sanctuaries, the unplowed soil from which spontaneous thought and accidental genius could grow. Now, they are vacuums, black holes of cognitive terror that you rush to fill with anything. A podcast, a headline, a meaningless scroll through the curated highlight reel of a life you will never lead. The hum of the engine, the sterile drone of the ventilation. These are no longer background sounds. They are the roaring silence of your own mind screaming for a fix. A buffer against the catastrophic possibility of a single, unprompted, original thought. You are not killing time. It is killing you. You hold up the black mirror, and for a fraction of a second, before the screen ignites with borrowed light, you see it. A face, bloated with the blue glow of 1,000 sleepless nights. The eyes, unfocused. The expression, a flat line. This is your raw data, the person who exists between the updates. And then the screen comes alive, and you are mercifully erased, replaced by a torrent of other faces, other meals, other triumphs, other manufactured despairs. Your reflection is not just hidden, it is annihilated, fragmented into 1,000,000 glittering shards of other people's narratives. You are a ghost haunting a gallery of curated selves, trying to assemble a personality from the digital exhaust of the hive mind. This is not connection. This is an epistemological crisis, an extinction event for the singular, sovereign I. A slow, cheerful cancellation of the soul. Do you truly believe you are making choices? The first light of morning does not touch your eyes before the first notification touches your brain, hijacking your limbic system before your consciousness has even fully booted. The architecture of your day is not a path you walk, but a track you are shunted along, from one dopamine-gated checkpoint to the next. This is the great lie of modern agency. You are not the master of your attention. You are a resource being allocated by algorithms written in a language you cannot read, for a purpose you will never understand. A digital leash, pulled taut. And what you call multitasking is the frantic, desperate rattle of that chain. It is not a skill. It is a state of perpetual cognitive trauma, a violent, ceaseless switching between shallow pools of information, fraying your neural wiring with every pivot. Each tab opened is a small tear in your capacity for deep focus. Each notification answered is a surrender of cognitive territory. You end your days perpetually busy, yet barren of accomplishment. Exhausted not from effort, but from the industrial friction of a mind tearing itself apart. And so you run. You fill every crack, every crevice of your existence with noise, because you are terrified of what you might find in its absence. But let us be ruthlessly honest with one another, you and I, here in the quiet of your own skull. It is not boredom you fear. Boredom is merely the lobby, the antechamber to the main event. What you truly dread is opening the door at the back of that room and meeting the person who has been waiting for you, the one you have starved and silenced and sedated for years, your unfiltered self, the atavistic core, the creature that knows your deepest shames and your most profound, unrealized capacities. It has no profile picture. It has no curated bio. It is the raw, terrifying, magnificent truth of you. And you have treated it like a monster in the basement, feeding it scraps of stimulus through the floorboards to keep it from rattling the foundations of the comfortable prison you have built. That hum you hear in the silence, that's it, waiting. This constant static is not a soundtrack. It is a wall, a meticulously constructed cage of sensory overload designed to keep you from ever having to face that primal occupant. The bars are made of infinite scrolls. The lock is shaped like a notification bell, and the warden is a culture that celebrates distraction as connection and equates stillness with obsolescence. But here is the final, brutal twist in this architecture of control. You are not the prisoner. You are the architect. You built the cage, you soundproofed the walls, and you swallowed the key, convincing yourself it was a vitamin. So if the noise is a cage designed to protect you from yourself, what happens when you finally realize you are holding the only key but have been conditioned for so long that you have forgotten what a lock, a door, or the very concept of an outside even is? Let us go deeper, past the skull, past the soft tissue, into the wet electrical labyrinth of the brain itself. Here, in the dark theater of consciousness, is a constellation of neural pathways known as the default mode network. It is not a structure, but a state of being, the silent architect of your identity. It is what ignites when the outside world goes quiet, when you stare out a rain-streaked window or lie awake in the pre-dawn gloom. It is the loom upon which the story of you is woven, and it is starving. With every ping, every notification, every mindless scroll, you divert the blood flow, the metabolic resources, away from this essential core. You are systematically defunding the very infrastructure of your soul. We can watch it on a brain scan. The vibrant, interconnected glow of the resting mind dimming, flickering, contracting into isolated pockets of activity. A sprawling, luminous city plunging itself into a blackout, district by district, until all that remains is the frantic, reactive strobe of the amygdala, the fear center, the only light left on in the house. Your memory is not a hard drive. It is not a static archive of perfectly preserved files. It is a living, breathing thing. A story you are constantly telling yourself, about yourself. Each time you recall a past event, you do not simply play it back. You rebuild it. You re-experience it, strengthening the synaptic connections, deepening the emotional resonance. This is memory reconsolidation. It is an active biological process of curation, a constant, quiet weaving, and it requires stillness. It requires the idle time you have declared your mortal enemy. So, what happens when the loom is never threaded? What happens when you outsource your past to a cloud server? The memories are still there, technically, encased in the cold formaldehyde of a digital gallery. You can access the data, the pixelated photograph, the short, jerky video, but you can no longer access the feeling, the scent of the air on that day, the bone-deep certainty of that emotion. You have a hyperlink to a ghost. The tissue of your past has become necrotic, accessible but dead, utterly, irrevocably dead. Do you understand what the future is? It is not a place you are heading. It is an act of imagination, an act of remembering things that have not yet happened. Your ability to plan, to strategize, to hope, to dream, all of it is built upon the structural integrity of your past. Future projection is memory in reverse, and your past has become a blur of digital noise, a chaotic, uncurated junk drawer of memes and headlines and fleeting outrages. So, when you try to look forward, what do you see? A fog, an impenetrable wall of static. You cannot envision a 5-year plan because you can no longer viscerally connect with the person you were 5 days ago. The neurological pathways that connect your past self to your future self have atrophied from disuse. Neurons that fail to fire together fail to wire together. You are left stranded on the razor's edge of the present moment, a creature of pure reaction, with no meaningful past to ground you and no conceivable future to pull you forward. This is not a failure of character. It is a failure of chemistry. You have been placed in a cage with a poisoned water bottle. The endless stream of novel information, the next post, the next clip, the next shocking revelation, it saturates your dopaminergic pathways. It is a fire hose of low-grade synthetic reward. Your brain, in a desperate act of self-preservation, begins to downregulate your dopamine receptors. It becomes harder and harder to feel pleasure, to feel motivated from normal, everyday things. This is anhedonia, the gray plague, the world drained of its color. And in this state of perpetual neurochemical starvation, the quiet, slow, methodical work of introspection becomes physically painful. True silence feels like withdrawal. It is an allergic reaction to your own consciousness. Stillness is no longer a sanctuary. It is a symptom of deficiency, a void that must be filled at all costs, lest you collapse into the agonizing emptiness of a reward system that has been burned out to a cinder. The great pivot is here, the uncomfortable truth that will either liberate you or break you. You are not losing your mind. The self is not a precious object that can be misplaced or stolen. It is not a thing at all. It is a process. It is a biological verb. It is the continuous, energy-intensive act of weaving your past, present, and future into a coherent narrative. It is a fire that you must tend, moment by moment, in the silent darkness of your own skull. And by outsourcing every idle second, by medicating every flicker of boredom, by treating your own consciousness as a problem to be solved with external stimulus, you have simply stopped. You have ceased the manufacturing of you. What you are experiencing is not the decay of an identity, but the consequences of failing to generate one in the first place. You are an empty vessel, a ghost haunting an exquisitely complex machine that is waiting for a command that never comes. So who benefits? Who profits from a world populated by ghosts? A population that cannot remember its own story, cannot feel its own past, and therefore cannot possibly envision, let alone fight for, a different future. You feel it, don't you? The low hum beneath the floorboards of your consciousness? The persistent, low-frequency static that fills every empty moment. You mistake it for the tinnitus of a stressed mind, the background radiation of a busy life. You are wrong. This is not interference, it is a broadcast, a signal engineered with cold, psychometric precision transmitted directly into the soft tissue of your brain. And its only purpose is to keep you tuned to a single, profitable frequency, a docile, predictable, and exquisitely programmable consumer. The desolation you feel is not a bug. It is the core feature of the operating system. We call it the attention economy, a sanitized, almost academic term for what is, in reality, the largest and most successful neurological mining operation in human history. Your consciousness is the new frontier. Your focus, the last untapped natural resource on the planet. Every second of your waking life has been commodified, mapped, and auctioned off to the highest bidder. They are drilling into your skull, not with steel, but with streams of carefully calibrated light and sound. They are fracking your attention span, shattering it into 1,000 marketable microslices. You are not the user. You are not the customer. You are the ore. The rich, cognitive seam from which trillions of dollars of value are being extracted. One glance, one click, one fleeting emotional response at a time. Your mind is the mine. The product is you. And who are the architects of this grand dispossession? They are not shadowy figures in smoke-filled rooms. They are young, bright, and they speak a language of frictionless design and user engagement. They call themselves UX designers, growth hackers, behavioral psychologists. They talk of persuasive technology and habit loops, not as metaphors, but as literal engineering principles for the human soul. They have reverse engineered the vulnerabilities of your primate brain, your ancient need for social validation, your atavistic fear of being left out, your biological craving for novelty, and they have built machines to exploit them at an industrial scale. They are not evil. They are simply, terrifyingly, good at their jobs. Their job is to design a cage so comfortable, so entertaining, so perfectly resonant with your deepest insecurities that you will never, ever want to leave. The business model is brutally, elegantly simple. A mind in a state of quiet contemplation is a mind that is not clicking. A mind lost in a daydream is a mind that is not buying. A mind capable of generating its own internal world is a mind that is not consuming the pre-packaged realities they are serving. Therefore, your inner world is the direct competitor. Silence is a market inefficiency. Boredom is a direct and existential threat to the quarterly earnings report. It is a bug in their code, a vacuum in their data stream, and it must be eradicated with extreme prejudice. Every second you spend alone with your own thoughts is a second of lost revenue. So the broadcast must never cease. The stimulation must be relentless. The noise must be total. It is nothing personal. It is just business. And here, the system reveals its masterstroke. It has found the perfect ideological partner to disguise its plunder: the secular religion of productivity. This is the cultural software that runs on their hardware. A belief system that sanctifies busyness as a moral good and demonizes stillness as a form of sloth. It convinces you to participate in your own cognitive dismantling and call it ambition. You are not fracturing your focus into a useless powder. You are multitasking. You are not succumbing to a dopamine addiction. You are staying informed. You are not eroding your capacity for deep thought. You are hustling. Productivity culture is the anesthetic that allows the surgery to proceed without you ever screaming. It has taught you to love the very tools of your own erasure, to see the chains as jewelry, to believe the hum of the machine is the sound of your own progress. Now, for the pivot, the final turn of the screw. You are waiting for the part of the story where we tell you how to fight back against the machine. But the most uncomfortable truth is this: the machine does not need to use force. It does not need to coerce you, because it has designed the tools of your submission so perfectly that you willingly, eagerly, even joyfully perform your own neural lobotomy. You reach for the device. You open the app. You surrender your attention for the cheap thrill of a heart, a like, a fleeting connection in the digital void. No one is holding a gun to your head. You are not a prisoner in a cell. You are the unpaid, alarmingly dedicated guard in your own panopticon, diligently patrolling the walls of your own perceptual prison. You have not been captured. You volunteered. So when the very tools of your potential liberation, meditation apps, digital calendars, focus aids, are designed and sold to you by your captors, what does rebellion even look like? So you have seen the cage. You have felt its cold digital bars against the soft tissue of your mind. And now you are looking for an escape plan, a map, a key. There is no key. There is no map. The only way out is through a crucible, a trial by fire, or rather, a trial by its absolute inverse, a trial by the agonizing, unmedicated vacuum of your own consciousness. The path to reclaiming yourself does not begin with an action. It begins with the terrifying, radical, and profoundly countercultural act of doing nothing at all. To find yourself again, you must first be willing to be completely, utterly, and miserably lost. Let us perform an experiment, not on a test subject in a lab, but on you, here, now. We are going to introduce a void, a segment of pure, unadulterated silence, a temporal black hole in the sensory bombardment of your life. And as you contemplate this impending emptiness, feel what happens in your body. The slight acceleration of your heart, the tightening in your chest, the sudden, desperate impulse to check your device, to adjust your posture, to do anything to preemptively fill the void. This is the twitch of the addict, the visceral, atavistic terror of an organism that has been conditioned to believe that stillness is death, that silence is a predator. You have been trained to fear the very state that is required for your own salvation. We have been taught to call this feeling boredom, a word that drips with the condescension of a culture obsessed with motion. We treat it like a disease, a cognitive deficiency, a personal failure to be entertaining to oneself. This is perhaps the most effective lie the system has ever told. Boredom is not an absence. It is not a void. It is a signal. It is a cognitive hunger pang, as clear and as vital as the rumbling in your stomach that tells you to eat. It is the cry of a starving prefrontal cortex. It is your brain, stripped of its external pacifiers, signaling its profound desire to switch from a state of passive, bovine consumption to one of active, internal creation. When you feel the onset of boredom, you are not empty. You are on the precipice of a breakthrough. You are standing at the threshold of your own mind, and you have been trained your entire life to turn and run from it. But what if you didn't run? What if, for once, you held your ground and walked through that door? The first stage is a kind of hell. We call it the unfurling. It is the frantic, chaotic noise of a detoxing mind, a hurricane of phantom anxieties, half-formed thoughts, and recycled fragments of the digital detritus you have consumed. It is a physical sensation. The feeling of 1,000 insects crawling just beneath the surface of your skin. The overwhelming urge to bolt from your own body, to escape the deafening roar of your own internal monologue, now stripped of its external distractions. This is the storm of withdrawal. This is the price of admission. Most people never make it past this point. They retreat back to the comfort of the noise, convinced that the silence is what's broken, not them. But if you can endure it, if you can sit in the fire of that internal chaos without flinching, something remarkable happens. The storm breaks. The frantic noise recedes, not into nothingness, but into a profound and expansive clarity. A calm so deep it feels geological. And in that calm, something stirs. The first truly original thought you have had in years, rising unbidden from the depths. A forgotten memory from childhood, resurfacing not as a blurry photograph, but as a fully sensory experience you can taste and smell. A creative solution to a problem that has plagued you for months, presenting itself with the elegant, shattering simplicity of a mathematical proof. This is not magic. This is biology. This is the quiet, steady hum of your default mode network, finally receiving the blood and oxygen it needs to reboot, to reconnect, to begin the slow, methodical work of manufacturing you again. Here is the existential pivot, the revelation that should haunt you. Every great leap of human intellect, every foundational philosophy that reshaped civilization, every transcendent work of art that broke the heart of a generation was born in this state. It was conceived not in a flurry of networked activity, but in profound, uninterrupted, and often excruciatingly uncomfortable boredom. An apple falls on Newton's head only because Newton's mind was first a perfectly still, fallow field, ready for the seed of a revolutionary idea. Einstein's thought experiments were not the product of a well-managed calendar, but of long, unstructured hours spent staring into the middle distance. Genius is not a function of how much information you can consume. It is a function of how much empty space you can tolerate. By running from the crucible of boredom, you are not just running from discomfort. You are running from your own potential for greatness. You are choosing the anesthesia of the crowd over the sharp, terrifying, and world-changing clarity of your own sovereign mind. So now you know what the silence holds. Now you know what it costs. The only question that remains is this: are you brave enough to pay the price of admission? The popular prescription for this soul sickness is a childishly simple one: the digital detox. A temporary, self-congratulatory vacation from the prison, after which you are dutifully returned to your cell, convinced that a weekend of fresh air has fundamentally altered the concrete and steel of your daily reality. This is a lie, a comforting, marketable, and utterly useless lie. You do not need a vacation from your life. You need a revolution within it. The solution is not a temporary retreat. It is a permanent cognitive shift, a total re-architecting of your relationship not with technology, but with the very nature of your own consciousness. You must begin to treat silence not as a luxury, but as a non-negotiable biological nutrient, as essential as oxygen or water. Without it, you do not merely falter, you begin to rot from the inside out. True freedom is not the celebrated ability to choose from a million glittering distractions. It is the austere, disciplined, and godlike power to choose none of them, and to listen instead to the singular, low-frequency signal of your own mind. The methods for this reclamation are not life hacks. They are acts of rebellion. Small, daily acts of cognitive and cultural insurrection. You will schedule time in your calendar for the explicit purpose of doing nothing. You will guard these blocks of time with a feral ferocity, for they are the sovereign territory you are carving out from a colonized world. You will deliberately cultivate a tolerance for slow thought, retraining your dopamine-ravaged brain to find satisfaction in a single, complex idea wrestled with for an hour, rather than 1,000 shallow ones consumed in a minute. You will pick up a pen, a physical book. You will feel the primitive, immense power of analog tools that have no agenda other than the one you give them. You will transform the dead time of your commute from a podcast slot into a mobile monastery, a sealed chamber for reflection and observation. These are not acts of self-care. They are acts of war against a system that profits from your spiritual entropy. But there is a cost. We must be honest about the cost. This path will make you strange. It will disconnect you from the warm, narcotic hum of the hive mind. You will miss the trending outrage. You will be late to the latest meme. Your conversational currency will devalue. You will find yourself in rooms full of people, all staring at their screens, and you will feel the profound, chilling loneliness of the fully awake. This is a path of willful desynchronization, a deliberate stepping off of the spinning carousel of manufactured consensus. It requires the courage to be out of sync, to be seen as slow or disengaged or eccentric. It is a necessary amputation from the diseased collective in order to save the singular self. You must choose between the comfort of the herd and the cold, clear, brutal air of your own sovereign peak. And so we arrive at the final argument. The most radical political act in the 21st century is not to protest in the streets, but to reclaim the private territory of your own attention. The most profound creative act is not to produce more content for the stream, but to build an inner world so vast, so rich, and so compelling that the outer world of manufactured noise becomes little more than a distant, irrelevant echo. To own the 15-second gaps, to master the 2 minutes in the elevator, to conquer the silence before sleep. This is the final frontier. This is the ground upon which the future of human consciousness will be won or lost. Not in a grand public spectacle, but in the silent, invisible, and utterly decisive war that is fought every second of every day inside your own skull. Here is the final liberating pivot. You are not broken. You were never a victim. You are simply dormant. The noise, the distraction, the relentless digital broadcast, it was never the true problem. It was only ever a symptom of your consent, a reflection of your own deep-seated terror of the silence within. The power to turn it all off, the strength to face the magnificent and terrifying universe you carry inside your own head has been yours all along. It was never taken from you. You simply forgot how to use it. And the choice you face now is not about wellness or productivity or self-improvement. It is about something far more fundamental. It is about sovereignty. The absolute, inalienable right to be the sole author of your own thoughts and the undisputed king of your own inner kingdom. The broadcast is over. The static has ceased. What will you do with the silence that follows?